Dear learner, today I am going to discuss about the constitutionalism, and this is the part three of the comparative government and politics. This is the very important things about the constitutionalisms, and it deals about the limited governments. And when we're talking about the constitutionalisms, is a complex and foundational concept in the political theory and practice. It refers to the idea that government should be limited by constitutions, which is a sort of fundamental law or principles that outline the organization's powers and limits of the government's institutions as well as the rights of the individuals. Here is a detailed look of the constitution. That means that when we're talking about the constitutionalism, it is talking about the limited governments, and there is no any kind of the unlimited governments, and there is some core principles of the constitutionalisms are as follow. One of the important core principles, that is rule of law. When we're talking about the rule of law, that means the government must operate within the law, and law must be followed and enforced equally, and no one, including government official, is above the law. That means that in the lie of law, every persons are equals, and nobody is above the law. And this is very important concept, that is of the rule of law of the constitutionalism. Next important principles of the constitutionalism is the separations of power. That means the government power is divided among different branches like the executive, legislative, and judicial to prevent any branch from becoming too powerful. This is called the separations or powers, and separate from the judiciary, from the legislature, and executive from the each other. This is called the separations of powers. Next important core principles of the constitutionalism, that is checks and balances. Each branch of government has the authority to limit the powers of other branch, ensuring that power is balanced and abuse is minimized. When we're talking about the check and balance, and this type of the theory is practicing in the United States of America, like the other branches, that means executive, legislatures, and judiciary, each have their own limitations and domains, and they are not overlapping with each others. This is very called the check and balance approach of the constitutionalisms. Next is, that is protections of fundamental rights. Constitutionalism is deeply connected with the protections of individual rights and freedoms. Constitutions often include a Bill of Rights or similar provisions that guarantee these rights. When we're talking about the constitutions, often include a Bill of Rights or similar provisions that guarantee these rights. Judicial review, the courts have the power to interpret the constitutions and to inability law and actions that are found to be violate the constitutional principles. This is very important things we talking about all the matters in the constitutionalisms. Next is the type of the constitutional constitutions, especially in the constitutionals, like the written constitutions. When we're talking about the written constitutions, this is also called sometimes a codified constitutions or a formal documents that clearly outline the structure of the government, the division of power, and the rights of citizens. Examples include the US constitutions and the Indian constitution. Indian constitutions and United States constitutions is a formal document that clearly outline the structures of government, the division of powers, and the rights of citizens. Examples include the US constitutions and the Indian constitutions. Unwritten constitutions. Unwritten constitutions, a set of traditions, precedents, and legal documents that collectively form the foundations of the governments, and United Kingdom is often cited as an example of a country with unwritten documents. Yeah, unwritten constitutions. When called the unwritten constitutions, that means that their constitution is uncodified and there is no any formal collections of the documents, And these are some important law are mentioned in the judiciary or even in the presidents. And United Kingdom is one of the very often examples of the unwritten constitutions. Another kind of the constitutions that is called the rigid and flexible constitutions. Some constitutions are different, difficult to amend, requiring superiority or a special process, the US constitutions. Other can be amended more easily like the flexibles, allowing for more frequent changes. This is called the rigid and flexible. That means in rigid constitutions, parliament have some kind of the strong procedures like the two-third majority for passing or amendment of the bills. But those country like the India and United Kingdoms, United States of America is very difficult to change the constitutions. But some constitutions they are flexibles, like the United Kingdom. There the simple majority can amend the constitutions. Now come to the historical developments of constitutionalisms. When we're talking about the historical development, one of the important that is ancient constitutionalism. The concept date back to the ancient civilizations such as Greece and Rome, where early forms of constitutions like the Roman Republic governance structure were developed. In the Greece and Rome, some how we call the republic governance structure were developed. Medievals and early modern periods, the Magna Carta in England was a significant step toward modern constitutionalism and establishing the principles that the king was subject to the law. Enlightenment influences thinkers like John Locke, Montesquieu in the 17th and 18th century significantly shaped modern constitutionalisms by advocating for governments by consent, separations of power, and the protections of natural rights. These are the very important parts of the enlightened influence. Modern constitutionalism, the United States Constitution, and the French Revolution declarations of rights of men of the citizens are landmark developments that have influenced constitutional design worldwide. Constitutionalism in practice. These are we call the where we can practices of the constitutionalism in practice. Democratic constitutionalism in democratic systems, constitutionalism is a closely tied to the protections of the democratic process and institutions, ensuring that government is accountable to the people. Authoritarian constitutionalism, some regime may have a constitutions, but it is often a facet with the little real limitations on the ruler's powers. The constitutions may grant sweeping powers to the leaders or be easily amended or ignored. Constitutional court. Many constitutions have a specialized courts or body that interpret the constitutions and ensure law and government actions compiled with the constitutional provisions. These are the called like the US Supreme Court, Germany Federal Constitutional Court. These are the important constitutionalisms in the Germany and United States of America. What are the challenges to the constitutionalism? When we talking about the challenge before the constitutionalism, erosions of checks and balance. In some countries, the balance between the government's branches can become skewed, leading to the concentration of power in one branch or the erosions of democratic governments. This is very important things. Constitutional amendments. The process of amending a constitution can be continuous, specifically when proposed changes threatens to undermine the core principles of constitutionalism. Judicial activisms and restraints. Courts play a crucial role in the constitutionalism, but there is ongoing debate about the extent to which judges should actively interpret the constitutions versus adhering strict to the next. And that is also called the constitutional globalizations and supranationals body. International agreements and body like the European Union can challenge traditional notions of constitutional sovereignty and raising questions about the relationship between the nationals and constitutional and international law. So these are the important challenges before the constitutionalisms, like erosions of check and balance. That means one department become more powerful and concentrations of powers. Constitutional amendments, the process of amending a constitution can be continuous, especially when proposed changes threaten to undermine the core principles of constitutionalism. Judicial activisms versus restraints. Courts play a crucial role in the constitutionalism. What there is ongoing debate about the extent to which judges should be actively interpreted and the constitutional versus adherent strictly to the text. Globalizations and supranational sovereignty. This is also very important parts of the constitutionalism. Globalizations and supranational body, international agreements and body, e.g., the European Union can challenge traditional notions of constitutional sovereignty, raising the questions about the relationship between national constitutions and international law. Then importance of constitutionalism. What is the significance of constitutionalism? When we're talking about the constitutionalism for the governance and for the modern state, that is legitimacy and stability. A well-functioning constitutional system provides legitimacy to the government as it operates within an agreed upon frameworks leading to greater stability and the protections of rights. Constitutionalism is a key mechanism for protecting individual rights against government's overreach. This is called the important task. Framework for the governance. It provides a clear structure for government's operations, defining the roles and powers of various institutions, which is essential for effective governance. This is very important things. Now come to the constitutionalism has numerous significance implications like the protections of individual rights, safeguard citizens, fundamental rights and freedoms, preventions of abuse of power, limits government's power, preventing arbitrary actions and tyranny, promotes accountability, holds government officials accountable for their actions, stability and continuity, provides for a framework for governance ensuring stability and continuity. And next is that the rule of law. That means establishing is somehow the rule of law ensuring equal applications of the law. So these are the some kind of the continued constitutionalisms has numerous significance and implications. Next thing that is called the separations of power. That means prevents concentrations of powers, promoting check and balance. Next is judicial review. Judicial review is also empower courts to review the law and government actions for the constitutionality. That means ki there is also some kind of the power of the judiciary to review whatever the actions by the government it is according to the constitutions or not. Next is federalisms, divide powers among central governments and regional governments and promoting decentralizations. This is also important part. Popular sovereignty reflects the idea that power is held by the people and exercised through the elected representative. It is very important part of the popular sovereignty. Promotes democracy. That means support democratic principles, ensuring citizens' participations and representations. This is important task of the important judiciary systems. Now come to the limits government's interventions that restricts government interventions citizens uh, in the citizens' lives and promoting individuals' autonomy. Encourage transparency, foster transparency in government actions and decisions making process. This is also part of the important things and provides a framework for governance that is established clear guidelines and procedure for the governance. Next, that is support economic growth, create a stable and sorry predictable environment conducive to economic growth. Next is that is enhance international reputations, demonstrate a commitment to democratic value and the rule of law, enhancing the international reputations. This is very important parts of the clarity. Critics of constitutionalism limits democracy and constitutionalism can limit democratic decision making by constraining majority rules. Elitism's constitutions are often written by elites potentiality disregarding the interest of marginal groups. Inflexibility constitutions can be difficult to amend, making it hard to adopt a changing social needs. Judicial activisms, judicial activism review can lead to the unelected judge making policy decisions, undermine democratic accountability. Cultural homogeneizations, that is also important criticisms of the constitutionalism. This leads toward the judicial activism, and judicial review can lead to the unelected judge making policy decisions, undermining the democratic accountability. Cultural homogenizations, constitutions may impose a single cultural ideological framework disregarding diversity. Historical context, that is, constitutions are products of their historical context, potentiality, perpetuating outdated value or biasness. This is very important criticisms of the constitutionalism. Next is that is called the power dynamics. Constitutionalisms can reinforce existing power dynamics. That is also favoring the those who have already hold the powers. Rigidity. Constitutions can create rigid structures, making it difficult to respond to the changing circumstances. This is a rigid kind of the nature of the constitutions. Disconnections from the people. Constitution may become disconnected from the peoples, failing to reflect their value and their needs. And these are over emphasis on individual rights. Constitutionalism can prioritize the individual rights over the collective well-being or social justice. Difficult in resolving the conflicts. Constitutions may not provide clear guidance on resolving conflict between competing rights or the interest. Inadequate representations. Constitutions may not ensure adequate representations for marginals or under represented groups. These are the important criticisms of the constitutionalism. That means the first of the important criticism that is limits of the democracy, and second is that is elitism. Constitutions are often written by elites, potentially designated the interest of the marginal groups. Inflexibility, constitutions can be difficult to amend. Judicial activism, judicial review can lead to the unelected judge making policy and decisions. Cultural homogeneizations, constitutions may impose a single cultural ideological framework disregarding diversity. Historical context, constitutions are product of their historical context, potentially perpetual outdated value or viceness. These are very important things. Another criticism that is power dynamics. Power dynamics constitutionalism can reinforce existing power dynamics, favoring those who already hold the powers. Rigidity constitutional can create rigid structures, making it difficult to respond to the changing circumstances. Disconnections from the people. Constitutions may become disconnected from the people, failing to reflect their value and needs. Overemphasis on individual rights. Constitutionalism can prioritize individual rights over the collective well-beings or social justice. Difficult in resolving conflicts. Constitutions may not be provided clear guidance on resolving conflicts between competing rights or interests. Inadequate representations. Constitutions may not ensure adequate representations for marginals or underrepresented groups. Now come to the conclusions of the constitutionalism. That is, constitutionalism is a cornerstone a stone of the modern governance. It's ensuring that power is exercised within the legal framework that protects individual rights and maintain a balance of power. Its principles are critical for the functionings of democratic systems and the protections of freedoms. How it faces ongoing challenges in the practice. So this is the gist of the constitutionalism. I think this is very elaborative lectures. Thank you for your patience.